Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We all know that nowadays we are in a fast-changing and dynamic world. As Xperius, we want to share our experience and ideas about developing, but also delivering integrated IT and people solutions, which might help you to cope in today's ever-changing and digitized world of business and work. Today, we will talk about how your data and automation could improve the end-user experience. But first of all, let me introduce you to the speakers. My name is Matthias Boudry, and I am Service Delivery Manager at Xperius. Our next speaker is Jokam Baltachoglu, who is our Pre-Sales and Solutions Consultant. And third, we have Zakaria Marzuki, who is our Practice Lead. Before we start the actual presentation of today's topic, it is also worth mentioning that this webinar will be recorded, and this recording will be available to everyone who desires to go through the content again. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send them through the chat window, and we'll get back to you at the end of the webinar. Let us now present the table of content. In a deductive way, I will first talk about why data is important for your organization. In this context, we'll talk about the different business levels and how good data management can benefit every level. Once you have a good understanding of that, Jokam will talk about how data should be used in order to optimize your IT environment. In this section, he will talk more specifically about how a good interpretation is mandatory to obtain the required result. When being informed about the importance of the information, hierarchy, and the levels of analytics, I will then emphasize the added value of how and what a good understanding of your data can bring to your organization and IT environment. Last but not least, Zakaria will talk about how we, as Xperius, want to position ourselves as your solutions as a service partner. Let us start with providing an answer on why data is important for your organization. An important and widely applied approach to the management of organizations is the paradigm of strategy, tactics, and operations. In short, from top to bottom, the STO model. At the strategic level, an organization manages its long-term objectives. To support the determination of these objectives, data management needs to be coordinated at the strategic level so that it can plan forward and ensure that all processes in the company are well supported by the needed data. At the tactical level, these objectives are translated into medium-term goals in order to, on an operational level, translate these goals into short-term specific action plans, which can then be realized. By the help of data management, tactical level business processes and more specific operational level processes can be supported, optimized, and automated. In general, to conclude, when you collect the data regarding your IT environment in your organization properly, it will be useful for all planning levels, depending on the way it is analyzed. Following this previous slide, a good data management can provide several benefits for every level of your organization. At the strategic level, a good organizational management is used to set priorities, focus energy, but also focus resources, ensure that employees and other stakeholders are working towards a common goal. It is also important for a good result-oriented thinking and assess and adjust the organization's directions in response to a changing environment. This can only be accurately done by having good quality of data and a right interpretation. As a result, effective strategic planning articulates not only where an organization is going and the actions needed to make progress, but also how it will know if it is successful by contributing to accurate decision-making, impact analysis, and think about our current COVID-19 situation, but also to maximize the profits and, of course, have a good security in place. At the tactical level, on the other hand, by monitoring the data, medium-term objectives can be defined in line with the strategic objectives. This allows us to measure and enhance the productivity and engagement within the company and take the appropriate steps where necessary. If an organization has a well-structured data management in place, and perhaps based on real-time maybe, it will also allow them to predictively analyze the outcome. Both taken into consideration, this means an effective cost saving for the company. Thanks to data analysis, an organization is able to identify potential threats and proactively resolve them on an operational level. As a natural result of this capability, a company will be able to automate and optimize their IT environment, which will also enhance, of course, the user's experience. Within each level of the organization, 5 elements of influence can be found. We have people, we have recognition, we have tools, we have community, and we have ideas. These 5 elements together can actually represent the entire life cycle of an organization, because each of these elements controls one another, but is also capable of strengthening, or like this picture shows, empowering each other. It's a cycle with no start, but also with no end. And however, we must also be aware that there are also forces who might disrupt the dynamic between these 5 elements. Allow us to explain those 3 forces of influence into a bit better detail. First of all, the forces of empowerment. The forces of empowerment are considered the most essential in a model and indicate how one organizational element can empower, guide, and develop the others. This can also be described as a sort of parent-child relationship between the functions where one element is best positioned to invoke the success of another. But at the same time, this model also implies that all elements have influence on each other. For example, the people category, so the red one on the slides, is a natural driver for recognition, the yellow one. If, by the help of data, productive work and success of the people is properly measured and recognized, of course, having these proper tools in the organization will also contribute to the success, so the recognition. The second type of force are the forces of control. With forces of control, we mean that the excessive behavior of another element can be kept within boundaries. An example of this is where the element IDs, so the green one on the slide, demonstrates an excessive output. Let's assume that the organization is delivering too many new IDs at a very fast pace, resulting in an increasing number of unreliable products or services in the market. The recommended entry point for the management team from a control perspective in this case is through defining the correct tools that can control the community element and thus keep the organization's strategic ambitions grounded in reality. The third type of force are the forces of disruption. The forces of disruption refer to both internal but also external influences causing noise in the organization. Eliminating the impacts of these disruptions in the system are essential for the overall success of the organization. An example of a cause for disruptions could be customers' complaints and financial losses due, for example, an unreliable product in the market. The internal noise that can result from this can lead to very strict internal governance measures with the good intention to actually prevent these problems from happening again. However, if the response is too excessive, this may also result in a situation where any future initiatives for innovations are inhibited. This in return will result in losing a valuable innovative advantage on competitors in the market, resulting in loss of market share. In the end, taking into account the 3 forces, the goal of an organization should be having happy people who feel recognized. How and why, you say? Well, by providing them the necessary tools and/or solutions in order to boost their happiness. Once the necessary tools are available, the people will start to interact with each other and a community is born. From a community perspective, there will be exchange of information, but also from ideas, which makes innovation possible. All of this will in turn empower your organization as a whole, on all levels, and this in turn results into more involved, but also more engaged people, and from this engagement, they will be more happy, and have like new needs who need to be supported by new or other solutions. What we actually want to show here is that this model is an upward cycle of empowerment within your organization, with no beginning but also no end. All these 5 elements can, however, be controlled by measuring quantitatively the organizational environment. I will now give the word to Joachim for the next chapter.
Well, thank you, Matthias, and hi, everyone. So in this chapter, we'll dive into the importance of data and analytics to optimize your IT environment. So let's first start with an example to show you how not to use data analytics and how can it lead you to take improper decisions if not analyzed properly. So please have a look on these 4 graphs on the slide with 4 different data sets just to have an idea first. So what you see here is 4 data sets with totally different distributions consisting of 11 XY points on each. And for sure, these graphs are not same. None of them is even close to be similar to any other one. So let's illustrate these graphs and adapt them to a real life situation for a better understanding. To explain in an example, let's say that the Y variable represents the spending of a company on advertising a product, and X variable represents the demand for that product. So the first data set appears to be a simple linear relationship. So the more the company spends on advertisement, the more product they will be selling. The second graph is not distributed normally, and the relationship between 2 variables is not linear. So after the peak point in the graph, even though the product is less advertised, demand keeps increasing. The third graph has linear distributions such as graph 1, but should have a different regression line. So that means the company should spend less on advertisement to have the same level of demand compared to graph 1. Finally, the fourth graph shows that only one high leverage point is enough to produce a high correlation, even though when the other data points do not indicate any relationship between the variables. So in our example, indeed, advertisement does not help to increase demand at all, except only one sample, which requires further root cause analysis. But what is unexpected here is, when you look at the descriptive statistics of these 4 data sets, such as mean of X, mean of Y, variance of X, variance of Y, correlation between X and Y, linear regression line, and the coefficient of the linear regression, they are exactly the same, which says that there is a linear relationship between X and Y. And so the more you spend on advertisement, the more you'll sell. Indeed, the fact is that these descriptive statistics can only explain graph 1 properly. But the situation is completely different and more complex for the other graphs that requires higher levels of analytics. So correct interpretation of data is critical, but not easy to do and requires some experience and expertise. Now we will have a look from another aspect at the information hierarchy to understand how data evolves. The data itself will not be an added value if you are not able to interpret them correctly and properly. A good interpretation of data will lead to acquiring the necessary information, and in turn, this will allow the organization to gain knowledge. Based on the acquired knowledge, careful and accurate decisions can be made that are in line with the strategy to be followed. Once the decisions have been implemented, it's a matter of monitoring the business impact in order to gain new insights and wisdom so that you can optimize your environment. As Peter Rosenberg, Director of Transformation and Innovation Europe at Experis, stated, the focus of the analysis is to capture the actual state of the organization in relation to the desired or required state. As the prerequisite of the analysis, data will lead organizations through these steps to reach their desired end state once the proper level of analytics is applied. But please note that this is a continuous process. So let's first look how data circulation is happening within a company, and then we will focus on the levels of data analytics. Here's a diagram which illustrates the process of using data for a better business understanding. Looking at this diagram, we immediately spot 2 outstanding features. This is a highly iterative process, and this process never ends. So let me explain the model into more detail now. Optimizing your organization means that you first need to understand your business and identify what level of understanding you need. One, and maybe the main way to have a good understanding, is to approach your business from an analytical point of view. Analytic requires data. So acquiring healthy and useful data is a prerequisite for this analytical approach at every level. Obtaining data can be accomplished in several ways. For example, through the people within your organization, or directly through the tools used within your organization. Once the necessary data is collected, a good understanding is mandatory. What did you measure, and what are the possible results? By having a good understanding of the collected data, you can start preparing it for modeling. If you feel the data is not yet complete, more data collection is necessary, of course. If the acquired data is sufficient, you can start modeling it. After evaluating the models, you can then deploy at desired organizational levels and follow up for the feedback. So taking into consideration today's complex IT environment and our desperate dependency on IT assets, none of the companies or organizations can afford to ignore tracking their IT environment. This is an iterative and never-ending process. In other words, this is a virtuous circle which helps to identify the problems and find the optimum solutions continuously. Today's circumstances requires the companies to have skilled support process in place in order to monitor and analyze their needs and problems constantly regarding their IT environment. In the previous slides, we have learned how an analytical approach can be used for a better understanding of your business and thus optimize your organization. However, it is also worth mentioning that there are 4 levels of data analytics which applies to different levels in your organization. So the first one is descriptive statistics, which looks at data and analyzes past events for insight as how to approach the future. So what is happening in my business is the question to answer by the help of descriptive statistics. In business, this provides a view of key metrics and measures within the company. A monthly profit and loss statement can be an example, or similarly, you can have a data set of your customers, and based on that, you can try to understand demographic information on your customers, such as 30% of your customers are over 40 years old, or 45% of your customers are women and 25% of them are self-employed. So this type of analytics would be categorized as descriptive analytics, and using proper visualization tools usually enhances the message of descriptive analytics. The second one, diagnostic analytics, is the next step in complexity in data analytics, which examines data or content to answer the question, why is it happening? On the assessment of the descriptive data, diagnostic analytics will let us to drill down and in doing so understand the root cause of specific events. The following step, predictive analytics, is all about forecasting, as you can understand from its name. Whether it is the likelihood of an event happening in the future or forecasting a quantifiable amount, these are all done through predictive models. At this level of analytics, the variability of data will have a relationship with what it is likely to happen. As an example, the older a person is, the more susceptible to COVID-19 virus. In this case, we would say that age has a linear correlation with the fatality of COVID-19 virus, as an up-to-date example. The last step up regarding value creation is the prescriptive model, which includes how can we make it happen analysis to help the organization determine the best course of action to take. A good example of this is a traffic application, helping you to choose the best route home and taking into account the distance of each road, the speed limit at which one can travel on each road, and crucially, the current traffic constraints. So this model supports the approach of an advisory process to confirm that the organization is on the right track or to advise the management team. Once there is an agreement on the required and desired state, it will be possible to more effectively identify the gaps between the actual state and the required state, and so to identify the best course of action. In the previous slides, we talked about the value of data and the importance of a correct interpretation. So let me illustrate this with an update example. in 2014, the Canadian startup Blue Dot was founded. Their mission is to predict pandemics and their spread even before the official institutions raise a red flag, like World Health Organization. Now let's have a look at Taiwan case. With an average of 7 confirmed daily infections to date in a population of approximately 24 million, Taiwan has led the world in their response to COVID-19 pandemic. The Taiwan Centers for Disease Control has a subscription to Blue Dot Insights, which is a cloud platform for assessing infectious disease risk. And here how they used Blue Dot. Blue Dot's risk evaluation software identified an increasing infection rate of a virus caused by high interaction between people. And even before World Health Organization released an official statement to the world, they predicted COVID-19 as a global pandemic. And based on this prediction, they advised Taiwan officials to take some strict measures, such as stricter border controls, even before the other countries were vigilant. As a result, Taiwan's daily infection rate didn't exceed an average of 7 people a day. To conclude, as you can see here, what Blue Dot did is a perfect example of what can be done using data in the correct way. Today's businesses requires an accelerated IT environment in order to keep up with the dramatic change. So this specific example shows us the strength of data and how to use it to cope with the unexpected challenges. Now, I'll give the floor to my colleague Matthias for the following section.
Thank you, Joachim. In this chapter, we will talk about the additional value a good understanding of your data can bring to your organization and IT environment. Organizational strategy is a coherent expression of a process that identifies the ends, ways, and means designed to achieve a certain goal and added value. The advantage of using data expands beyond strategic level, as it has also a positive effect on every level, depending on how you process it. Because of this positive effect, your people will be more engaged in the company and thus have a higher added value. According to researchers, happily, employees are 20% more productive and are more likely to stick with their current employer. It's just simply good business to support employees in their well-being efforts, and within that, in their digital wellness. This digital wellness requires, however, a cooperation between a well-balanced digital workspace, which will trigger more proactivity and knowledge gain. And with this knowledge, the organization will in turn be able to create value and a better experience, thus creating within their own business a happy, productive, but also self-steering community. That said, data is actually the blood of modern business workflow. Enter the digital age and you suddenly have important workflows that cannot run without putting data management into a much more strategic, proactive role. Now, let us go into some more detail about how a good understanding of your IT environment contributes to a further creation of added value. We will do this by following the analytics level model explained earlier in this presentation. Regarding to the IT environment of your organization, a good understanding of data can have an added value on all 4 levels and actually on 7 domains. The first domain is by analyzing data, you can obtain better insights in your current IT environment statistics and thus control, optimize, but also empower it. Secondly, the availability of useful data, think about real-time data again. Make sure that plenty of analysis and reporting can be done. In that way, effective and accurate decisions can be taken, and those results can be compared with predefined KPIs, which were defined, for example, on a strategic level. The third and fourth domain stresses the fact that if real-time data is available, a good analysis of it will also allow you to predict potential threats. It is also good from an economical point of view. Understanding your IT environment means that you can optimize it and thus have cost savings on the short and long term. Think about license management. Monitoring the overall power consumption of your hardware devices can, for example, also contribute in reducing your ecological footprint. And that said, he had 7 domains. Now, allow us to talk about Experis' vision on this. I will now give the floor to Zakaria, who will go into more details about this.
Thank you, Matthias. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. Now I would like to emphasize the role of Experis within this context as your solutions as a service partner. So, first of all, the vision of Experis. So, we want to be your partner in developing and delivering integrated IT and people solutions and services that make you and your employees successful in the ever-changing and digitized world of business and work. In scope of our new strategy and with the help of our experience and expertise, together with staffing and consultancy services, we are now confident to offer the best solutions for the organizations in this ever-changing IT environment while providing maximum flexibility. So, to support all HR and digital transformations and meet the challenges of flexibility, recruitment, development, professional mobility, or externalizations, Manpro Group decided to simplify its organizations globally and is now structured around 4 major brands with Experis as the IT brand. Experis delivers the powerful combination of in-demand talent multiplied by expert solutions. And that drives success. We offer IT resourcing, project solutions, managed services. We enable organizations to cultivate individuals and teams prepared for the digital age. Thanks to our experience in people and IT services, we are able to provide qualitative products and solutions that respond to this ever-changing world. Coming back to the graph of the information's hierarchy presented earlier by Gauguin. Let me explain these visions in a more practical sense. It is a fact that just because a company collects information, it does not mean we use it. Doing something with data is not always easy. More data is being produced, but it's often unstructured information. Following this statement, we want to provide an end-to-end solutions. We want to help your organizations in collecting data by implementing IT solutions. Once the data is obtained, we want them to provide consulting approach by interpreting that data. This makes sure an organizations can obtain valuable knowledge about their environment and to optimize where necessary. And then the company can acquire new information to make appropriate decisions. It's our mission to provide these necessary means, such as IT solutions and people, but also to guide your organizations in selecting the right way to be able to achieve your goals and your targets. We have talked about the added value of data and what it can do. Now let me just show you some example of dashboard reporting that Experis can provide in order to make it more visible. So in this slide, you can see your organization's service score and compare it to the benchmark score on the top right. So we have a score in green and one in gray. The benchmark score shown next to the service score is calculated from all current installations within our customer organizations. The main benchmark value is the median average of all scores. So if your score is higher than this, so your environment health is better than 50% of our customer. The service score on this dashboard tell you the overall health of your end user computing. The individual area scores for device, software, performance issues, and use tell you the health of these respective areas. So you can have an idea about the performance of your IT organizations, and in detail, you can see this active metrics regarding other areas. In the next slide, we will see another kind of dashboard that we are using with our product and solutions. In this one, you can see a dashboard and report for individual PCs and software. So as you can see here, it's possible to go into detail when necessary. Formula One teams, like Ferrari, Mercedes, etc., use telemetry data to improve cars and help drivers to get more out of them without pushing too hard regarding the car. What if you could build a tool that could do the same for employees with their computers? So to allow IT teams to measure and improve how they worked. This is what we are trying to do with the employee experience. So asset scores for individual species and software products tell you how well a particular asset is currently working. The asset score are shown in the device and software list and on the individual asset pages. What we have learned today is that a correct use of data will lead to the automation of your IT environment and in general your organization, which will have a positive influence on every level in the organization. And we will be the one who can guide you through this process thanks to our product and solutions today by automatizing the workflows in your organizations. The goal of today is not to go into detail regarding the product that we have, but if you have some info, some questions regarding this webinar, I will be more than happy to respond to it. Maybe Matthias, you can see in the chat box if someone has a question.
Yes, of course, Zakaria. Thank you very much. Let me check. Okay. Yeah, I found a good one. As far as I know, Experis is providing IT staffing and consultancy. Can you explain the difference between your old and your new strategy in a nutshell?
Okay, good. Yes, so Experis used to provide professional resourcing, which IT solutions, permanent contract, contracting. But in order to be able to adapt to the changing business environment, ever-changing world, we are now entering a new era, and IT services is much bigger. It's more important, I will say, today in our market, and it's a bigger part of our strategy. Therefore, we decided to merge Experis and Proservia. Proservia was our IT service branch within Manpower Group. So now we identify Experis only with IT, meaning that the HR, finance, engineering, life science divisions get their own brand, which is Jefferson Wells. So we have Experis, an IT brand, providing IT services, IT solutions, while always providing IT staffing. So now you are probably thinking how we will do that. What are the changes in the, effectively? So we decided to define 5 practices within Experis. We have the business transformations, we have cybersecurity, digital workspace, cloud infrastructure, and enterprise applications. And each practices includes staffing for resources matters, consulting, project services, and managed services. And those are supported by the Experis Academy services in order to develop talents who fit into the organizations. This is what we are trying to do with Experis. And I hope that give you more details and that clarify the question.
Thank you very much.
Do you have another question, Matthias?
I'm checking in the meantime the chat, and I have found another one. Maybe also very interesting. The question is, you just mentioned the suite of solutions. What should I understand by that?
Regarding the practice digital workspace, because that's I will say that I'm the practice leader of digital workspace within Experis. So regarding the digital workspace, we have 4 main solutions in place. We have our service desk solutions, a service center, which includes a 24/7 24/7 service window on remote and supporting 10 languages in Europe, but also supporting this with different tools, such as IT asset management, specific ITCM tool, specific IT tracking system. Then we have a second solutions, our on-site and lifecycle management, which includes IT support on premises at client site, 24/7 availability of field engineers for lifecycle management, such as rollout, migrations, refresh, etc. Third one, we have the digital platform, which is a platform to unify an organization's employees and the technologies. In this way, employee engagements will be improved thanks to the exceptional end-user experience. In this way, we continue to contribute to the creations of a community at our clients. And then the last one is the cybersecurity. We want to predict threats and keep the IT environment under control to ensure a good employee experience within the organizations. I think that's due to time restrictions, we'll stop here, but if there is other questions, Matthias, I will be more than happy to respond to it after the webinar and to get back to the people. So
yeah.
Don't hesitate to contact our business development manager, Cédric van den Dal, for any other questions. If you like to have any more technical details, please contact us directly. You can also check our service and solutions via our website, experis.be, LinkedIn page or Facebook page. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having attended this meeting, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.